Sorry, my mic was on mute there. I was just saying, I think we're just going to do like a 1 hour stream or something like that today. Really wanted to do some work on this. Painted this. Let me turn the grids and guides off. Painted this like spaceship control area. Like, I don't know. It's like one of those where everyone stands around and there's a hologram in the middle. I painted this a little while ago. I actually painted it on Magma, and I painted it completely publicly. There were other people on the canvas with me, which I've been really enjoying lately. I genuinely think that is the future, being able to paint with people, like literally on the same canvas live. You know, it's the closest thing to like being there with someone and paint. It's very fun. But yeah, so painted this in Magma online and took it into Krita. And I'm going to try a new method because I've been kind of enjoying painting these things in isolation lately. So I obviously just painted this floating on the canvas. There was nothing around it. I'm used to painting full compositions, so you know there'll be like an actual border on what I paint, and I fill the whole border. You know what I mean? So I'd normally have like a full composition with stuff going on, but this is kind of new for me. Just doing little. Sorry for bumping the mic there. It's kind of new for me, just doing these kind of floating sketches and paintings. But I've been really enjoying it, and I'm starting to wonder if there's ways of me to turn these little props and character designs that are just floating in the canvas into full compositions. So this is one of my attempts at that, and it's not the first attempt either. Save. This one was actually my first attempt yesterday, and it didn't go very well. There you go. That's what my kind of half-failed attempt worked like. I may try to finish this because obviously you can't say that a painting failed until you really, you know, finish it. And any painting can be finished. I could finish this and have it look pretty good, but might not be worth the effort with where it is right now. And compositionally, just not a huge fan. What I do love though is these kind of purple, especially this one, where it kind of bulges out, this kind of purple jointing on the armor. So I'm definitely going to explore that little stylistic trait a little bit more. I like the chrome. It might not be obvious here in this low kind of detail stage, but I like the solid, this like chrome mirror finished gun as well, which is quite uncommon, and I think it looks quite nice. So we might try and carry that through. I also might start sneezing a lot at some point because it's coming summer. So if that happens, I might end up turning off the mic and camera so you're not watching me sneeze. Not much that needs to be said anyway. With painting, it's painting, right? And as usual, my streams and content in general are still very inconsistent, but I'm always thinking about it. And you know, at some point I'll get the hang of it, and I think once I'm streaming regularly and I've kind of got everything in order, and it's a nice stream to watch. You know, the audio's a bit nicer, and I've got the, you know, all of the levels down and such. Can hopefully be successful. All right, so yeah, this paint, I really love how this painting went. By the way, sorry. Yeah, this little like I've been painting a lot of stuff like this. To show you even. This was the Magma page. I just downloaded it. My drawings were this one, and obviously these two. I really love this one as well. I'm finally kind of feel like I'm at the point where I just really quite like my own paintings, which is a good thing. But yeah, I love how this turned out, and I love how this turned out. The reflective materials just felt so like satisfying to paint, and it just made sense in my brain, and it does now because I've had some practice with painting materials like this. I also painted this guy, which I I quite like him, and I fancy him as kind of one of the kind of spacemen inside of these ships that are controlling it. You know, some kind of like creature from a different world. What else was there? Yeah, there's a few other paintings that I did as well. Obviously, this one was the last stream that we did, and I didn't really like it. I don't like this piece of artwork very much. I like it more looking back. I liked it less when I was painting this. I think I was overreacting a bit because it's not too bad. Just a bit boring. I don't know. I just wasn't in the mood for it. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do much for me. So I wasn't very happy with this last stream. But, and we won't even talk about that. But this was kind of the original page that kicked off me painting more futuristic things and doing it in this way, you know, which I'm going to branch out into other like non-futuristic things with this way too. But, you know, just doing these floating sort of sketches. Looks like it's kind of got artifacts on it. I'm not sure where they've come from. No clue. I don't know if the file got like corrupted a little bit or maybe I'm missing a layer or something like that. But either way, I was really happy with how all of these turned out. And if you want to see one of these, this one, get painted in a speed painting, you can visit my art station where I have a nice detailed layout of all of these sketches from this couple of days of sketching. And like I say, it even includes the speed painting of this. I'm just getting the hang of the record function on Krita at the moment, so you'll have to bear with us with the speed paintings. I keep forgetting to turn it on and all sorts of stuff like that. I don't know what this. There you go. Speaking of, make sure to press the record this time. And I have got a bit of a speed painting for how we got to this point so far. I want to get the speed painting for this entire painting done, and I think it'll look really nice. Just starting, the idea with this painting style is to just start with this initial sketch and to grow out from there. Let me give you the nice zoomed in view so you're not left out of the action. And yeah, the last thing I did a day or two ago was figure out this texture here on the floor, which I'm super happy with. I love it. It looks really pearlescent and cool and unusual and unique, so keep going with that. Kind of like hexagons, I guess. I'm trying to go for something a bit organic so that I've got a bit more leeway and I don't have to be. In fact, you'll notice all of this is kind of like very organic textures and such, like all the reflections and all that. And that's because it lets me not have to make everything perfect and precise. I can get away with just painting it organically. It's an organic subject, right? And everything comes down to a pattern, remember? So with these hexagons, just a simple pattern. You know, these little dark shapes, the harder edge at the top, softer edge at the bottom. They're all interlocking. They're really circles, but if you squeeze circles together enough, they do become hexagons. So that's how we get the hexagonal shape, and that's pretty much the secret. They're really just circles when they start out, but I just keep squeezing them together until they become hexagons. Trying to get a nice effect of them fading, not fading off, but they are on the ground plane. I want them to get progressively thinner and thinner as it stretches back until you can't really make out the individual little cup shapes anymore. And whilst I am kind of getting away with a lot of sloppiness in the organics, I still don't want it to be kind of like crazy and wavy and such. And that's why I'm painting with a grid as well, because this is a very symmetrical painting. And I don't really like I don't like the idea of symmetrical paintings, but you just have to face facts that this one, you know, we're starting with something in the center and growing out. The symmetry is going to be on our side here. Try and remember to stop leaning forwards as well. The only thing with me painting in magma a little bit more often lately is getting used to the differences in Krita, like the different ways that you upsize your brush. not really keeping the abstraction here at the moment because I'm obviously colour picking a lot, which kills abstraction. But it's really just for efficiency reasons. And really in my own kind of area of art, which is very ambitious, right? I mean, this isn't exactly like an easy. Obviously, it's not like I'm struggling, but I have to have multiple attempts to get to this hexagon shape, right? So it's quite a difficult painting as it goes. So once I've kind of gotten the hang of doing these paintings and I know exactly what I want to do, then I'll start trying to bring back some of the methods of abstraction that I usually use. Really like the greens as well, and these space paintings. It feels so like unnatural and kind of like it really shows off that artificial lighting. I feel like. You see, we're just literally just growing this texture. There's nothing to it. It's just a simple pattern. It might look a bit complex at first, but it's really not. It's a very basic pattern that I feel looks very impressive when it's used correctly like this. I did want to take today's stream as well to kind of talk about where I'm going with the Laugh Arts project, because I do have ambitions for this channel. It's just difficult for me sometimes because I have so many ideas going on at once and can never settle on an individual idea. And I can never quite figure out where I am. Even in my painting, like I say, I'm kind of new to painting these more difficult paintings. It's like this is the first time I've ever tried to paint outwards from a sketch like this. And if you look in my portfolio, you'll see there's not many finished paintings in general. I was always more for building skills than actually finishing paintings, and that's not by choice. I would rather have been more, I've always wanted to be an artist that can build a nice big portfolio. And obviously my skills would have grown faster that way anyway. But like I say, I'm not perfect. Trying to get there, trying to make up for lost time. And I'm very happy with my skills at the moment. So I really want to use them and not feel like they're just sat idle. So I'm keeping on it. And like I say, even if I don't produce much content for this channel, I'm always thinking about art. Always thinking about Laugh Arts. It is my obsession, after all. You can see we're getting a lot thinner with these hexagons. What's interesting about them is my brain kind of wants to stack them in like a brick pattern, like this. But the hexagons are more like a grid pattern, which doesn't make sense in my mind. But that's because it's more like, I don't know, it's more like that, I suppose. They're not quite overlapping each other, but the edges are just, starting to point into each other with these hexagons. So you can see we don't even have to focus on these little rim lights that we was adding before because we're on such a bright part of the ground plane now where there's just loads of reflection blasting into the camera. We're just going to put like literally hints of them back there. Actually, I do want to make the rims just a little brighter so they're not all one flat boring colour. See how much I can get away with as well with just being lazy, and that wasn't very difficult, was it, right? Just painting those last couple ones even. And you can see they're a little bit inconsistent, and that's how they're going to be when I first lay them down. But everything will get worked over a couple of times, right? Trying to get it. The philosophy of this painting approach for me at the moment is trying to get everything right first time, but obviously that's the goal. It's not mandatory. Just trying to get everything as close to perfect right out the gate, because that's as far as I can tell, that's a nice efficient way to work, and I'm very much one for efficiency. Lately, I just really want to be making really efficient paintings and making paintings that just mystify, right? Like this reflective material here. I just painted that straight out the gate, and I don't even know how. Just trying to get it to where it's you know what I mean. You couldn't even understand how someone could paint something, But it's all in the method. When I was painting this, I was just trying to be abstract, and there's simple rules to it. I'll end up making YouTube videos about all of this, all of the stuff that I've learned that lets me paint like this. And I should mention as well, lately, surfacing and materials have been a very, active place in my mind when it comes to my art. So that's why the surfacing on this is really like it's the focus of this piece. Really, is interesting surfacing like these hexagons and reflective materials. Pretty simple rules as well. You really wouldn't. I mean, it's just random, right? These reflective materials. You just have to remember the rule that on any horizon, right, and a horizon is like right here where the surface is starting to get flat, right? So like that's more of a horizon than here where it's flat on. And any of these horizons, they're like a magnet. So there's like reflections, like pin lights, highlights, whatever you want to call them. There's reflections all over this thing, right? All you've got to remember is any of these horizons are literally like a magnet, and they will pull. You'll see they'll pull all of these reflections in, and there'll be loads of noise on all of these edges, all of these horizons. You'll see there's more noise. Anything that's like a cup shape as well as a horizon, I should mention. And then it'll be wherever it's very smooth here and facing the camera, there'll be very few and light and blurry highlights, and that's it. That's the rules. That, and like I said, anything that's like a ball, that's facing every area of the room. So again, you're going to get loads of noise on these horizons, but also because it's a ball, it's just going to be reflecting, the entire room. And that it and physics doesn't care whether that is a ball shape or whether it's a cup shape, if that makes sense, right? So if it's going in or out, it acts exactly the same, and I hope that makes sense. But I'm not here to really talk about that anyway. I just like explaining things. Alright, we'll carry on with these hexagons. I'm trying to find like an ergonomic position to paint in like this. Feeling like the bane of my life. I really need to sort the layout on my desk. The keyboard that I was using as well, that's broken, so I'm gonna have to get a new one of them for sure. I'm trying to use a spare one right now, but that was the post coming through. I'm trying to use a spare keyboard right now, but it's nowhere near as ergonomic as using the little one that I was using. Trying to just be lazy and grab some highlights from over there to use. But I would recommend, if you want the most beautiful colour mixing that you can get, you want to be picking a new individual colour for you don't want to be using the color picker basically, because when you're not using the color picker, oh, sorry, this is what I mean by the color picker, the eyedrop tool kind of thing. You don't want to use this because it will make all of your colors more bland. I don't really care about that as much in this piece, and you can make the colors look better afterwards. They're little, excuse me, there are little tricks you can use to make up for that. But my recommendation is to, if what you care about is getting really nice color abstraction, don't use the eyedrop at all. Pick a new color, and not even just that, pick random colors, and I mean random, right? I can literally pick pink here, and I can make it look normal, right? I can blend that in, and now that's just a little bit of diversity in the chroma or hue, whatever you want to call it. It's a little bit more pink, right? But you're picking random colors everywhere, you're gonna get just a beautiful mix of colors, and it really is just a case of randomness. You can probably program the brush to do it automatically. I'm not sure. It does take a bit of cognizance, I suppose. I can't stress enough how easy that is to do and how gorgeous it can make your work look. Not something I'm doing here, like I say, but something I almost always aim to do. You can see that these hexagons here look pretty ugly right now in the shadow. They're not up to scratch. They're not what I like. So what I'm trying to do is just zoom out, criticize them. There's too much contrast. You can see all the dark areas of them. Just way too much contrast to look normal. I'll probably get away with the darker areas back here, but here it's just too much contrast and it's just looking out of order. So just going to glaze over them with a lighter value that you've seen I just color picked from like over here or somewhere. And it looks a lot better now, just because there's less contrast. Even though it's still kind of not the best shape, it looks better because it's not sucking your eye in and going, look at me, right? Like if I put something really high contrast, just like right there, it's going to look weird, right? And it's going to, if it's wrong, it's going to like look even more wrong. So I've just lowered the contrast there, and see they look a lot better now. They're still not a very good shape, but I can change that and work on it. What I need is more hexagons on the left side so that I can get the shape of these to look nice. This is really like a growth approach. We're trying to grow this painting at a steady rate and stick to working, stick to trying to get foundations in, if that makes sense. Like try and get some of the more of the hexagons, maybe get the hexagons through to about there, and then work on the shape of these ones once that structure is in place. I'm going to keep soldering on. I'm trying to stay zoomed out as well, which is why you guys are so zoomed in, is because I paint very zoomed out. Very zoomed out indeed. That went just a bit too dark on that one, same issue. I really want to get the regular streams going as well, because another one of the things that I kind of struggle with. Excuse me 1 second, let me just blow my nose real quick. Yeah, what I was saying, sorry, is these paintings take time, a lot of time. This painting's probably going to be like, I guess I'll be able to track it soon. I've got no way of knowing, but my guess is it's going to be above 15 hours by the time this painting's completed. And And that for me, just sitting in quiet or listening to music and painting, I can't concentrate like that for very long. So I feel like streaming really like gonna make it easier for me to do longer. This isn't gonna be a very long session, but to do longer sessions, right, and just get these paintings finished and on my portfolio, right? Because like I say, one of my weakest areas as an artist right now is my portfolio. So just need to start putting in that time and getting my portfolio filled. And I think that'd be a lot easier for me to do. Be a lot easier for me to do when I'm streaming, because you know the nature of streaming. You sit there for 3 hours or 6 hours, and you're just cranking out work, and you're less likely to get bored because you know hopefully you've got people in live chat to kind of speak to, and just puts me in the right mind state as well. Even when there's no one here watching, like right now, and probably for a few months time still. Just nice to be able to kind of even talk to myself, and you know, makes it not just me sitting here trying to concentrate in a quiet room. That is something I cannot do, no matter how much I want to. I wish I could just sit here and just finish paintings and concentrate on them and all of that stuff, but just gotta find ways around it, I suppose. And yeah, that really is a big reason why my portfolio is very vacant. Not much stuff. Got maybe like 10 finished paintings to my name, if that, and a lot of them aren't really very finished. Got a very unimpressive portfolio for the skill set that I have. So I'd like to change that, and I feel like streaming is going to be a good gateway for that. I also would like a bit of a bigger portfolio of videos, or modern videos at least. I've done okay with some YouTube videos in the past. Something in my eye. I'm actually kind of proud of some of the YouTube videos I've done, but you know, should have hundreds of YouTube videos by now, right? If I'd always kept on it. So yeah, as usual, just me kind of on the hard slog trying to give some attention to Laugh Arts. The attention that it really deserves, because like I say, I've spent a long time building up this skill set. Real shame to waste it. Yeah, like use quite a lot of glazing in my approach to control the contrast, like I was talking about earlier. And you can see me continue to do that. You can see how nice and satisfying this pattern's looking now. It's creeping along, and you know, this it's at the right scale. It's not. And I started by just trying to make it a super smooth metal floor. Just not the way. But these hexagons look nice because they give your eyes something to grip onto dimensionally. So you can tell that that part of the floor is further away than this part. But if it was all just smooth the whole way around, it'd be a lot more difficult to tell. See me still being lazy and colour picking. Like I say, this is a bit of a test piece. And it's also a bit of concept art because you know, like I was saying, that kind of creature that I painted as well, maybe that's going to be just trying to snowball ideas. You know, maybe that'll be like some kind of space battle story or something like that. Maybe I can just make some little storyboards, anything like that. Anything to take my art pieces out of isolation and give them a reason to exist. It's always been something I kind of strive for, but obviously it's hard to. If I'm gonna make some kind of story about something or some kind of narrative or universe, then I want it to be good, right? and I like my artwork, right? I think my artwork's good, so I think the story that should be attached to that should be good as well. But I'm not a very good writer at all, so kind of permanently stuck in this loop of kind of really wanting some kind of narrative and story to work from and be inspired by, and not having it due to my own stipulations that I'm too stubborn to kind of shift from. I refuse to kind of write a bad story and attach it to my art just for the sake of it. I want, you know, maybe one day I'll figure out how to write. But at the moment, my theory is that it'll be easier if I start from the concept artwork, like I am now with this, and just snowball that. Don't think about the story, just think about the visuals, the concept artwork, and let the ideas spring naturally from that. And I think that's really going to work well. And I love this creative process as well of doing these kind of paint sketches and then turning them into a full composition, because it lets me do 6 or 7 paint sketches, and then that's like how many paintings? Well, 6 or 7 paintings I can make from that, right? Maybe more, maybe less, but that's just gives me the opportunity to have such a variety. And it's hard for me to come up with ideas for full finished paintings, ideas that I can easily pursue. So I think that's really gonna give me some seeds to grow, and something of a foundation to work from, right? Because this painting of this prop is the foundation that I'm working from for this piece. So I don't have to, obviously I've got ideas, like I'm thinking about what sort of stuff I want in the background and all of that, but really I'm just thinking about this and how to support it and how to make it look good. And I've decided I'm probably not going to put any characters in this scene either. I'm just gonna paint the room, just gonna paint the environment, which is something I haven't really been able to do in the past. Is just paint environments. Always have to put a character in it, or some little silhouettes, or just some life, some people, which isn't always a good thing, because sometimes that can cheapen it or ruin it or distract from the real focus, which is the room and which is the environment, I should say, to be more general. Loving this hexagonal floor, by the way. I'm quite proud of how it's turning out, and I think this piece is going to be really beautiful when it's finished. You can probably see I don't mind kind of tooting my own horn with my art. You should like your art. You should be trying to get to a point where you admire your art like you admire, the art of your artistic heroes, right? That should be the goal. You should get your art to that point where where if you'd seen it before you started training as an artist, it would have blown you away. That's the sort of art you want. And I feel like just in recent times am I kind of beginning to reach that level, and it's nice. It's nice. I feel very competent at the moment in my skills, which is a good feeling for sure. You can see also that there is some logic with the floor here. See, it's so bright here, and it's darker here, and what that is the reflection of this. This isn't actually darker. Or under here isn't, or at least this spot here, right? This spot is brighter than this spot, right? But not because this spot is in shade. this spot is reflecting this, right? So if you've ever seen a reflection, kind of gonna, you're gonna have the thing on top, and then you're gonna have the reflection on the bottom, and you can see that there is the light, and here where the reflection starts, it starts to go dark. So trying to explain that. Again, I'm just kind of at the moment really obsessed with. I've always been obsessed with rendering, but particularly obsessed with surfacing, and even more particularly reflective materials, reflective and transparent materials. Just loving them right now. Right, everyone, matte materials are easy, right? Because there's no lighting phenomena, or very little lighting phenomena, but reflective materials are all lighting phenomena, right? Reflections and refractions, and things that only look a certain way because of the camera and how the camera works, or how your eye works, whatever you want to call it. Very fun, extremely fun. I'm going to try and work some saturation in here. You always want to go a bit more saturated, especially because I'm working on a grey background and using a lot of glazing. I always kind of want to pump the saturation up just that little bit. Right, you see all these nasty brush strokes that I've got there where I don't want them. Just get the blur brush and blur them all away, is something that I've been doing recently. Yeah, I really haven't used the blur brush until very recently. And I've been absolutely loving it now that I've started using it. Just great for hiding brushwork. That's all I use it for, pretty much. Just to hide brushwork. And sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes I'll even use the airbrush in an attempt to not have the brushwork showing to begin with. But that can be a bit dangerous, because you'll get, it looks weird and squiggly sometimes, if that makes sense. Right. There's one thing I need to do to edit the sketch here. You can see I put like a pad for someone to stand on while they use this joystick control or whatever. But I haven't got one over here, so let's try and get that on. It's going to be very foreshortened, which will make it difficult. But it's okay, because we're in digital. And I think that digital is by far the best medium for painting from imagination, because it is by far the most forgiving medium that has ever been invented. You paint over stuff infinite times, right? So it doesn't matter if I get this wrong the first time, which I almost certainly will. Completely okay, because not only can I rub it out and try again, or paint over it infinite times, but I also literally have editing tools where I can squash it around and move it if I want to change how it looks. And on the very extreme end of that scale, you've got, literal 3D sculpting, like in software, or even if I just made this scene out of clay and then took a picture of it, that's like the next level up of being able to help yourself out. I don't know if that's on the same string of it being forgiving, but you know what I mean. There's a lot you can do. There's no mistakes that you can make here, and a lot that you can do to support yourself if you're struggling. You can see that's very off. It doesn't look right at all, as expected. Don't expect to get everything right the first time, no matter how skilled you are, because you won't. Especially on a difficult painting like this. But what will happen is you'll start to see where, and especially when painting from imagination, I should say. What sculpting something in 3D does is it makes it so you're not quite as much painting something from imagination. But here, this is completely from imagination, so I'm going to get it wrong the first time, and I'm going to want to edit it and retry. Oh, 100%. And also I'm doing this in line, I'm not painting it, which not many people know this or acknowledge this. But painting is easier than drawing for 3D, for 3D scenes. Which is why I'm slightly considering at the moment just painting this and not starting with the lines. But I want to see if I can get it right. It looks closer than before. I think before it was just too smushed. It was too... What kind of paint? Not sure what that was. I think before it was just a little bit too smushed in that way. Right at the top of my board. I feel like I might have set my tablet up wrong. It's just a little bit too low down, maybe. Yeah, it stops right there. I've got my tablet zoomed in a lot as well. You might notice, like, that's the extreme of where my tablet goes. And I talk about this a lot, but that's just because if I don't do that, it's like I'm either a centimetre on my graphics tablet and the mouse just zips across the screen, across the whole monitor, right? So that feeling does not feel like I have very much control. Right, I'm going to be cheeky here and use one of these squeezing, distorting tools. Maybe I'm going to squeeze it back in again, even though I just criticised myself for doing that earlier. You can see these squeezing tools don't work amazingly. See how much noise it's introduced. Well, not noise, but excuse me, it just messes things up a little. It's too high up. It needs to slide. It needs to be slid down. I don't know if this will work. That's the only thing is especially if in Magma I don't paint with this sensitivity, with this cropping, but keep trying to draw at the top of my tablet without noticing. Might be the way I'm seeing as well. Rotate that a little bit. Well, I think that's a bit more appropriate. How do I hide this? I'm sure there's a hotkey to hide it. And the ants aren't very helpful either. W? W? Oh. Definitely don't want to do that. Yeah, I don't know what the hotkey is. I'm going to leave it like that. See if we can work from there. I think that's better than... Yeah, up there is definitely far off. Alright. See, I can get away with not switching brush quite often as well, because I just press E, which turns whatever brush you're using. Well, I don't know if it does it with whatever brush you're using, but it turns this brush into a rubber. Still doesn't look like this one. This one looks really nice and smooth and satisfying. My one that I've drawn over there is kind of square. You can see, even though I can paint all of this stuff and I did it just fine there, it will still take me a few goes to do some things. And that's just what happens when you paint from imagination. You can't expect to get everything right first time from your head, you know? If I had an image of this already painted up, then yeah, sure. I could probably be less reason to get things wrong, but literally just making all of this up, so no one's got so much hyperphantasia that they can literally, vision the whole. And I have very strong fantasia. I can imagine, I can imagine an apple exactly as an apple, to the shade, to the patterns that describe it. But even I can't imagine an entire spaceship interior complete with all the surfacing and little details, and then put that onto the canvas perfectly with perfect um what's it called, perspective and proportions. It's not gonna happen. Uh, but you see, after working on it for, I don't know, like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, we've got it looking okay. It still doesn't look nice like this one, but it looks okay. And we just, what is it? We'll probably move on and make it a little bit better even so later on. And then the other side will obviously be a lot easier because it's a very symmetrical piece. We'll just keep trucking through. I'm glad I left this grid up because I feel like when painting like this, I'm surprised this turned out so square to begin with, but I feel like when I'm painting like this, things can end up being all warped and wavy very easily because there's no proper sketch underneath, right? Just growing it out. I have not much idea what this room's going to look like when it's completed. Let's see. There's a lot of area up here, but you can see I put the machine down here through the reflection in the glass, or through the glass, excuse me. So I'm wondering what is going to be up. Be anything, I suppose. And I'm wondering where the machines are going to be, because I put this machine as a little one back there, but maybe this machine is actually going to be a lot larger, and it's going to be like, there instead. Who knows? But I'm trying to keep everything close knit right now. Just grow it out from this central thing. Keep going, keep trucking on with these hexagons. You can see these hexagons are just a very tedious thing. They look great, but they're very tedious, and that's why I find it much easier to do these tedious things that have amazing outcomes while streaming, and then I can talk to myself and kind of add something else going on other than just sitting in a quiet room or with music like a zombie, just painting in each one of these little hexagon shapes. Drive me nuts. That does. I've tried it too much, and I guess this painting, that's what I did. But it's easy when I'm kind of like in a trance like that, like hyper focus. But I can't always switch that on at will. We're going to get to a point here on these hexagons where we're thinking about the lighting that's coming from that side. I'm just going to put a little bit of that down just so, my brain can start to consider it a bit more. Blur that in, why not? Get rid of these brush strokes. See, the blur brush is super powerful on here as well. Instantly blurs stuff. Really has a lot of smudge as well, this particular one does. Oh. Yeah, like I say, got a lot of ambition for Laugh Arts, especially this year. A lot of things that I want to do with this under my role as an artist. Got a lot to make up for, I feel like. So many years of kind of slumping with this, not putting out much content, not building up my portfolio, finishing paintings, figuring out what my workflows are, like that. Want to catch up on all of that this year if I can. I say that every year, but every year I say that every year, but every year I do genuinely get a little bit closer. So, hopefully this is the year where I can just really knuckle down and make a lot of art. I want to make a lot. I have a lot of ideas, you know, cooking away at the moment that I cannot wait to just get on the canvas. The left side is maybe too much more blue than the right side, but that's not to say that the blue is wrong. I think the grey is wrong on the right side. So you see I just got a saturated blue there and literally just it lost me a bit of saturation, so I paid the price a little bit, but I made this right side, at least in the shadow, just a little bit more blue. I mean, I can always come in and make that contrast, bring the contrast back that I just lost. That's a bit too much contrast here. Just trying to get it all to look homogeneous. Make it all congruent. Continue this shadow that's under the base. Got a bit of a rolled base, which is hard to shade underneath of. Especially when everything's reflective, like, is this a shadow or is it more like the floor reflecting the dark underside of the base of the machine? Alright. You can see we've spent like maybe 45 minutes painting, just over that so far. And I was planning on spending an hour, and you'll see that in that 1 hour I won't have, like, you know, the painting won't even be, you know, a tenth of the way to being done. So this really is going to be like maybe a 25-hour piece, maybe 30 hours. These pieces are really long. If you want to make, you know, really massive paintings like this, I mean, this is quite a large painting, 1080 by 1080, but I'm using every single pixel right, and I always do. My paintings end up quite large, not necessarily hyper realistic, but quite large. It's going to take hours and hours and hours. And if you can't figure out a way to get yourself to spend those hours, like I haven't been able to in the past, you're going to struggle to build your portfolio. And if you can't get yourself to paint smaller pieces, which is something I also struggle with, I'm finding it easier now that I've started painting some of these floating sketches, which is why I've been enjoying them so much. But if that's something you're struggling with as well, again, you're going to struggle to build your portfolio. You're going to struggle to finish paintings. Even if your half-finished painting has some amazing rendering and is beautiful, it's going to be a half-finished painting. And unless you can sit down and spend that 30, 25, 15, whatever it is, even 8 hours is a lot of time for some people, especially people that are more casual with it. You're not going to be able to paint at your best. And you've seen how easy it is painting these hexagons. I mean, look, I've got a dark color and I'm just, you know, just painting it in like bricks, like I showed you in that demonstration earlier. They don't even have to be spot on. I can move them and warp them and edit them and do whatever later. Again, you can't make a mistake here. The only mistake you can make is if you really fucked up bad and then saved the file or something like that. It's really annoying. Hopefully I don't do that. Sometimes as well, just to make it that even less likely, I'll save like an instance as another layer, and then, you know, I'll just copy the layer and then work on the layer that I've copied. See me glazing again. I really like to glaze with the soft brush more, but it doesn't require it there. The soft brush will just, because when I glaze, you can still see the sharp edges of the brush. But if I glaze with the airbrush, which is kind of the original use of the airbrush, right? There's no edge to the brush, no sharp edge. And you can see that I don't paint with a round brush either. I paint with like kind of the next step up from a round brush, which is a roller brush. Or I call it a roller brush anyway. And it just it's just a like the side cross section of a brick. I think this is just a rectangle. It just goes like a roller, and that's it. And pressure sensitivity is mapped to opacity, and that's it. And it rotates obviously to face wherever I'm painting. And if you don't want to make this brush or don't have it, but you want the exact same effect, pretty much, or very close to it, you can reuse the round brush, this is just, to me, in my head, another variant of the round brush. And in fact, this original prop that we're growing out from was painted solely with the round brush, because that's all I have access to on Magma. I don't think Magma has... I don't think you could build this brush that I'm using right now in Magma, which is kind of strange, because it's such a simple brush. Like I say, it's one step up from being the round brush. But maybe you'll be able to build this brush in Magma soon. Either way, it doesn't matter, because I have a round brush and it works fine. As you can see, I've managed to paint this console without too much hassle. Now these are a dish shape, these hexagons, so I'm trying to keep that in mind. And I'm thinking, let me just paint the profile of one of these hexagons. Right, so I'm just doing it as a circle, because that's what they are, really. And then you can see it's kind of like a bowl, right? I'm not very good at doing the cross sections, but kind of like a bowl. And what's going to happen is, if there is a bright light here, right, it's going to hit the bowl on this side. It's not going to hit this side nearly as much, and that's where you're going to get, or somewhere between where the light is kind of hitting, somewhere near it, that's where you're going to get the highlight, right? You might even get it there. Not entirely sure. It's going to be somewhere like that, basically. So if there's a light here, it's going to be showing on that side. And that's the basics of it. And also the rim is just going to catch a lot of light, because remember when I said that any kind of cup shape that's depressed in is going to, like, basic or popped out, even any kind of ball or cup shape is going to, you know, capture the whole room. Where was I? It's going to be very similar on this bowl shape. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Probably did have something to say different to that, but there you go, it's gone now. Back to painting these hexagons. I feel like I might need to do a bit more drawing on this left side, because it's not quite matching up for me. I'm going to try and get things at the same. I want things to look even, right? What I can do is actually just kind of cheat. Horizontal mirror tool, and that's automatically put the mirror in the middle, which is where I need it. And I can just put, you know, I can just trace it. That's just going to mirror it on the other side for me, without making too much of an effect on there. It might not look right though if the image is kind of already kind of asymmetrical. We'll see. The joys of painting a symmetrical piece as well, but also the pains, because if it wasn't a symmetrical piece, I wouldn't have to worry about trying to keep it symmetrical. I don't normally like doing that sort of stuff where I use the mirror tool or what have you, because I love asymmetry. I love asymmetry, but I always just kind of end up with symmetry in my paintings, especially if I'm painting stuff like this. I'm not sure why. Just something I often end up with, even if I don't really like it or want it. I mean, I do like it, and it's like there's two kinds of asymmetry, right? Because if you look at this main thing here, it is perfectly symmetrical in that we're looking at it dead on, right? You can see the grid lines line up with it, perfect. It is perfectly symmetrical in that way. But if you look at how it's been painted, I haven't used the mirror tool at all or anything, and it's completely abstract. So the reflections here are completely different to the reflections here. You see this one's got this kind of shape and then these little drops. Completely missing it here. Instead it's just got this one little shape. So they're very similar but not identical, and it's all been painted abstract. So in a way, geometrically it is symmetrical, but and this is going to be for the whole painting. Geometrically, this starting thing is symmetrical, but actually paint wise and you know how things are rendered, it's not symmetrical at all. And that's kind of what I enjoy. Although, to be honest, I don't really like doing the geometry symmetrical either, because it's just another stipulation, like I say. I think I'm probably going to really enjoy painting this guy, because you can see this isn't geometrically symmetrical either. If we were looking at it like, you know, like I can't paint here, but if we were looking at it dead on, then it would be a lot more symmetrical. But obviously we've got this nice 3/4 view, so whatever painting I end up growing out of this seed, it's not going to be symmetrical like this one. I think I'll enjoy that aspect. There you go. You can see the thumbnail is looking nice now as well, and you can see what I was talking about. If you look at the little box, like all the way down at the bottom right corner, that shows the whole scene, you can see it's like it does look like a reflection now, especially now that I've got the other side in. That was like a big game changer, so I'm very happy with that. I'll make this just a touch dark. Try to accentuate that a little bit, but not go overboard, because that one didn't go overboard. And the hexagon pattern, the tile, the hexagon pattern is gonna cover that up anyway. I love it. I love the way it's turning out. It looks good, I feel. More hexagons, and I'm trying to get the hexagons to match on the other side. And you can see on the other side the hexagons get a lot lighter and smoother and easier to see when they're in the light on that side. And that cup shape that I was talking about is a lot more obvious on these ones than it is to these ones, because they're exposed to a couple more light sources. These ones are still exposed to the light sources, but they've got that heavy reflection looming over them. And I think these I'm going to end up putting a lot more specular light sources in later. I just like to start with the smooth stuff, and I often add the highlights last, as I often add the highlights last, as many artists do. I'm still leaning forward. Trying to just sit up straight while I'm painting is so difficult for me. So I just want to zoom in and you know, look at the monitor from about 4 centimeters away. My monitor's a bit lower than it should be as well, so I feel like I should stoop down for it. If I'm going to be painting for long amounts of time, it's probably going to be a good idea for me soon to try to get these on the same scale as well. You see how many hexagons are kind of packed into there. And I'm still thinking about, you know, what I'm going to do next once I've done this little bit of tile texture. I think for this area, this section, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it smooth, maybe satin finished metal, and it's going to be just slightly cup shaped. I hope that is demonstrating it nicely, but it's going to be like, you know, really is going to be trying to paint the topology here, but it really is going to be nice and kind of cup shaped. Like a groove in the ground, and it's going to be very reflective satin finished metal is what I'm thinking. So sort of thinking ahead a little bit. And these places where they stand, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll make it like black rubber because it is a standing place. Whatever it is, it's I'm thinking of making it something that looks grippy, so someone could stand on it, and just to encourage people to stand on it. That's just how things are in real life. How things are designed a lot of the time. If you're meant to stand on it, it's going to be like a very grippy surface, right? It's difficult because obviously we started on the right hand side, and it's like by the time we moved over to the left hand side, the pattern might have changed so much that it doesn't match the right hand side anymore, if that makes sense. So that's my main priority right now, is getting it to match up properly. You can see, because it's a cup shape and it's dipped in, I'm painting the darker side of them at the top of the shape and not the bottom. If it was like bulging out from the floor, let me do a better job of that. If it was like bulging out from the floor, then it might be this area that's a little bit darker. But because it's a concave shape, and the light's coming from behind and really like pointing at us, you're gonna get that shadow right at the edge where the light can't reach in. I'm going to try to grow the dark areas of these ones out as well to match the right hand side a little bit more. I feel like the patterns were a little bit smaller where it was darker than where it's light. Because in the light, the story's being told in the dark areas, and in the dark, the story's being told in the light areas. That makes sense. Well, the more important shapes are in the dark or light areas. I'm going to make all of this just a touch darker as well, so that I can then come in afterwards and do some highlight work. See, it looks very different to that right hand side right now. That's my main priority, is just getting it to look the same, which shouldn't be too difficult. We've got something to reference, right? So it's going to naturally be a lot easier, hopefully. And that right side isn't perfect either, right? That's subject to change. So. Looking good. We've just hit just over an hour of painting now. And I feel like a lot of beginner artists, probably tiring everyone with the same brush here, but I feel like a lot of beginner artists that I see around, like Reddit and other places like that, and just what I can kind of imagine in my head. People don't expect art to take as much time as it does, do they? But yeah, this is what an hour's work looks like. I have spread this hexagon texture to the other side, but none of it's perfect still, and it all needs working on. And even though I've spread it to the other side, it's very unfinished on the other side still. There's a lot of work that needs to go into it to get it to look as good as it does on the right hand side. And then a lot of work that needs to be done to make the right hand side look better, and then the left side look better again to match that. So you kind of like always one-upping one part of your piece against another, and trying to keep the standards the same just takes ages. It takes a long time. Now, it's not a bad thing. If you want to paint well, you just got to accept that every piece takes time, and the better that piece is, the more time it's going to take. Obviously, right? Because, well, it's not obvious, but you know, it is one of those things that we wish was obvious, because you know, spend more time on a painting and it's going to be better, right? It's just like a pretty simple equation. I was even thinking today, because I seen something that kind of made me think of it. This practice that I used to have a lot of, even, where you'll draw a lot of little, not very good drawings. You spend loads of time painting or drawing, like, you know, like 50 drawings that aren't very good and that you don't like yourself even. But if you've just spent that, you know, 2 or 3 hours on one drawing or one piece of art, and didn't give up on it immediately and move on to the next doodle, and then give up on that and move on to the next doodle. If you just kept on that doodle and kept working on it until it, and used that time on just one of them, you know, you might have one drawing that looks really good rather than 20 drawings that look rubbish. And that's something that I don't feel like anyone has talked about yet, maybe, but it's something that I want to talk about regardless. Got a lot of ideas for YouTube videos as well as the streams. The streams are a bit easier for me, but I have got a lot of ideas for the YouTube videos, and I do want to start getting them out, especially things like shorts and stuff, because they're basically like advertisements, right? And they're also very easy to make. They're very short, so I don't have to do much editing, which would be very easy for me. So I can go on for a little bit more. I'm a little bit hungry, so I'm gonna call it soon. Not sure what I'm gonna have to eat. Something with eggs, maybe. I haven't, what is it? I never checked the audio on this stream, so I really hope it's okay. It looks to me like the music might be a little bit too quiet, but I'd rather that than it be too loud. And again, yeah, I'm just, while no one's watching, I'm fully taking the opportunity to make as many blunders as I want and not focus on trying to get the stream perfect. Just trying to focus on getting into the routine and figuring out what I want to do. It's a bit of a blessing that no one's watching yet. I don't think many people really take advantage of, you know, when you start streaming, you shouldn't be upset that nobody's watching, unless you know, your stream is amazing to start with, but mine isn't. And I need practice, so it's nice to have this time where I can practice knowing that, you know, nobody's going to watch this, and I can just make all the little mistakes that I need to make and figure out and get used to, and figure out my style and how I want to speak, all that sort of stuff, and even what sort of things I want to paint, right? Because last time I wasn't very happy with what I painted, that armor. I was very happy with the stream itself, but I wasn't very happy with that armor. It was a bit boring, so I'm glad I'm painting something a bit more interesting today. I do feel like, because I've been drawing so much space stuff, and previously I've really been more of a kind of dungeons and you know, goblins and ghouls and things like that. Lately I felt like I've kind of been leaving that behind a little bit, so I want to try some floating sketches of some ghouls, and you know, I tried that armor, it didn't really work very well, but I want to try some more kind of different types of armor and stuff. I don't know, maybe I will just, I don't know. I really like the space stuff. I really genuinely just love this kind of space design that I've come up with, so that might end up kind of becoming my bread and butter. You know, at some point you're going to be known for something in your work. I've never been an artist that feels tied down to one subject is the thing, because I've always been more concerned with my abilities and skills and such. So being able to paint in lots of different ways has always been at the forefront of my priorities, and being able to paint different things every week, paint exactly what I want, never being pinned down to a certain thing, never being pinned down to just painting landscapes or spaceships. Even looks pretty good. It doesn't look very flattened though on this left side, as you can see. The hexagons need to be a little bit wider, which again should be pretty easy because it's just a little bit of a modification on the very edges of these hexagons. Just make them go into each other's space just a little bit more. Looks a lot better now. I'd like it to be a little bit darker here. You can see I lost some contrast there, so just want to whip that back in on these dark areas. It looks good, and it's going to look even better once I've really worked on it and there's some stuff surrounding it, so I've got a bit more information on what kind of lights are shining on it, and then I can add more specular reflections and pretty stuff like that. Calm these highlights down now, and I think I might call it a day for today. Went a bit overboard on the darker values here as well. See, these are very subtle changes I'm making now. The changes just get more and more subtle as you finish an area or a piece. That's why the starting is the most fun, and finishing pieces is the least. And that's really strong on me. I really very much prefer starting pieces to finishing them. So I like the idea of this workflow, because if I'm always painting things to completion, even in these, before I spread out across the piece to the next area, that means I'm always kind of, getting to paint things for the first time in their early stages. All right. Yeah. Very happy with the results there. Let's have a look at it without the grid. There you go. You can see we got that hexagonal floor plane in. Yeah, like I say, I honestly just love the way this looks. I think it's going to look really nice when it's finished. I don't know what it's going to look like exactly when it's finished, but it'll look good. You'd think it would look similar to that kind of failed attempt I had. I don't think so. Alright, I'll call it a day, get some lunch. I'll probably go into stream again for a couple of days at least. But like I say, I'm slowly working on it and always thinking about it, so at some point I'll be streaming more regularly. And hopefully it can be regularly enough to actually kind of make it worth it, and to also finish some pieces and get a portfolio put together. Even then, that's just digital portfolio. I'm trying to work on traditional stuff too at the moment. So I've just got a lot going on this year art-wise. It really is a high priority for me.